And welcome back to Dark Side of the Ring Unheard, the podcast from the hit Vice TV series that plumbs the depths of hours and hours of interviews that Dark Side of the Ring has conducted with some of professional wrestling's most heralded, its least heralded, its most loved and reviled. I'm Jack Encarnacio from the Lapsed Fan Wrestling Podcast, joined by my co-host JP Sorrow, as well as the co-creator and executive producer of Dark Side of the Ring, Evan Husney. Evan, welcome in.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
Dark Side of the Ring resumes its Season 6 on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Vice TV. And this time it's going to be a look at the Sheik, Ed Farhat, the original Sheik, who was one of the most reviled and successful heels ever in the wrestling business, whose spike-wielding and flame-throwing ways inspired many, many marquee brawling bad guys over the decades. Yet he was also a bit of a troubled man who left very few in his inner circle as he closely guarded the power that he wielded over his particular wrestling fiefdom. And someone who cites the Sheik Ed Farhat in no small way in inspiring his evil-doing ways in the pro wrestling ring is our subject this week on Unheard, the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, who you might remember, of course, from prior Dark Side episodes about the Graham family.
That's right.
The troubled Graham family of Florida that revolutionized so many concepts towards booking and creativity in the professional wrestling business, with Dusty Rhodes coming up in that circuit. And perhaps, most interestingly as it regards Kevin Sullivan, as we look back on the John Cena heel turn that everyone seems to be talking about, Kevin Sullivan had the book, so to speak, at WCW when Hulk Hogan turned bad in 1996. And that's been talked a lot about in the wake of John Cena's heel turn. Is the last time we felt something like this, a decades-long good guy, suddenly turning bad. How we book heat is kind of, as they say in the business, is Kevin Sullivan's forte. So, Evan, we want to talk about Kevin Sullivan for a few reasons. First of all, everyone remembers, of course, that you folks covered the Chris Benoit tragedy, Season 2, Dark Side of the Ring. And we know that the female victim there, Nancy Sullivan, was not only Kevin Sullivan's former on-screen valet, but also his former real-life wife. And that it was, in fact, her going with Chris Benoit at the time she was married with Sullivan that caused no small tension there. Sullivan, sort of an executive as well as a wrestler at the time at WCW. And there was tremendous tension between Kevin Sullivan and Chris Benoit. One thing a lot of folks have always wondered, why isn't Kevin Sullivan in the Benoit episode? And there's a story there. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, back when we were making that episode in Season 2, I remember we were trying to get all the possible voices for that show. I mean, it was very important to us that the inner circle, firsthand information, that was the most important, paramount thing about telling that story, to otherwise not sensationalize it. Like, let's get the people that this affected the most, because it had largely for years been so swept under the rug by the wrestling, inside the wrestling community. And, Kevin Sullivan was someone we wanted to be in the episode from the very beginning. Obviously, he has a very unique perspective, on this as well. So basically, all of our attempts to reach him were either met unanswered or he turned us down. And as we were progressing through the shoot, doing more interviews, it was kind of becoming necessary that, he may want to comment on some of the things that are in this episode. So we would reach out again and try again, and then, he would decline. And so it basically got to a point where, we had to offer him the chance to respond to very specific things that were in the episode, which you do see in the episode. You do see sort of as a lower third, which is never ideal when you're making a documentary. I mean, you obviously want the person to be in the chair to tell their side of the story and to represent themselves in that way. So to have it sort of being a line of text in the episode is not the greatest, but it does represent, at the very minimum, his position on certain things. Long story short, shortly thereafter, the episode came out. I was contacted by his attorney at the time, and was basically like, "Yeah, Kevin really regrets not doing the episode." And I was kind of like, "Well, this is why we were, pushing so hard, because his absence is going to speak more than anything else, and trying to get him in the piece." So that was sort of the beginning of a process where I think he appeared on a couple podcasts to kind of get his side of the story out and so on and so forth. And then flash forward to when we did Tales from the Territories a few years later, we did a Florida episode, and we also did a Hawaii episode of that show, and we were able to put Kevin in both of those shows, and he was as nice as can be, and we had a very long conversation about sort of no ill will there. Meaning at the time he just wasn't sure how that subject matter, the Chris Benoit subject matter, was going to be handled, and which I understand. We didn't have a ton of street cred at that time, so most TV producers looking to cover that story is probably they're looking to again sensationalize or whatever. So he wasn't really sure what he was stepping into, but in hindsight, it would have been a better move for him to do. But anyway, we were able to sort of move past that and work together on Territories and also on Dark Side. He came back for season 4, which we'll talk about. We did the Graham family episode. Yep. He was also briefly interviewed. We asked him a handful of questions for the Bash at the Beach 2000 episode,
yes,
which I think we're going to show some of.
Yeah, that's where a lot of his reflections on his WCW days come from, which we know about. Right?
Yeah, know about
Dungeon of Doom.
Oh,
tell the people your memories, because when Hulk Hogan comes in 1994 in WCW, still in the red and yellow, all-American superhero gimmick, Kevin Sullivan is his like chief antagonist with a stable full of all of Hogan's old buddies from WWF.
It was, I remember, like, for me even, I can remember that kind of being a time when I started kind of from WCW. I was like, I just didn't, to me, Kevin Sullivan, my memories of Kevin Sullivan before that era, like before the kind of mid-90s Hogan WCW run, were only of WCW, the Nintendo video game. Wrestling, like that was it.
World Championship Wrestling.
Right. And that was, he had like the power bomb. He's wearing the stupid yellow, the long tights, the yellow.
Yeah, they put long pants on people.
Everyone had long pants.
Even Ric Flair had long pants.
Right.
Probably easier to render.
Well, because it was a Japanese video game first, and they just changed the faces to so like that was it. Like I had no idea who this guy was outside of that, and so all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. Is this guy from Lexington? Like, what the fuck?
He's
like this guy from Boston. Like, who is this guy? Like, Father. Just like
say to Curtis Ikea. Yeah.
I was like, this guy's fucking insane. Like, it just sounds like my family.
One of the things we got on Tales from the Territories was him talking about being that. Well, he wouldn't say it was satanic, but down in Florida when he was involved feuding with Dusty Rhodes in the early '80s, he would put the dark makeup under his eye, and he would put an X on his forehead, and he would have a trance over his little stable, the Army of Darkness.
I love it. That whole sort of occult, a vibe that he had with that character in the Territories. Some of our favorite archive footage of all time, some of our favorite photographs are from that period. It's just so crazy that he's got this kind of Aleister Crowley, almost, hold over his coven of, his Army of Darkness. It's just incredible. I love it.
It's a weird thing, like how, there's so many like gimmicks and so many characters and whatnot that they kind of like, well, I don't know if this fits into pro wrestling, but for some reason occult shit
it does
kind of works.
Totally.
It just works. Like
you can believe that.
I can believe it.
People would have a trance placed over them, the Jim Jones kind of thing.
And I always appreciated too the like artistry and the creativity that not only Kevin but also Nancy and others put into bringing that to life, like just the costume choices. The photographs are just incredible. The composition of them, the outfits that they're wearing, Kevin with a giant sword standing on the beach, wearing chains
in
Tampa
or whatever. Somewhere.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's just, that is just my favorite aesthetic of all time, hands down. And we should also mention too that we did interview Kevin for Who Killed WCW, which might be his last interview.
Yeah, it might very well be. You're right about that.
I think within months, that show coming out and his passing, of course. So.
And those who caught that series will get a little bit, I think, more out of some of the clips we have for you today from Kevin Sullivan as he reflects upon his time booking WCW at a crazy time, the formation of the NWO, all of that stuff. But for Kevin Sullivan, it goes back to Lexington, Massachusetts, and the other parts of Boston he grew up in. He came up as a power lifter, wrestled amateur in high school and beyond, so he knew what a real wrestling match looked like. And when he started going to the pro
Listen,
matches,
when you're shoveling snow from the driveway, you are a power lifter.
powerlifting.
Shoving New England snow. That's
we
it,
did
man.
we did once ask Kevin Sullivan about the blizzard of '78, and he gave a very funny response.
Really?
Yeah.
About how his dad would make him shovel and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh my God.
Only in TLF land, but
Yep.
Amazing.
for our purposes here, he talks about going to the matches at the Boston Garden, and this phony, like that guy would never react that way if he was really getting tossed around. This is not even close to looking real.
Right.
But when the Sheik hit the ring,
Right.
it was a totally different story, and that really sets us up nicely for.
I don't think I realized that Sheik worked Boston.
He sure did. In
That's
fact,
amazing.
Eddie Graham was a very close confidant of Vince McMahon Sr., and a lot of you remember like Dr. Jerry Graham.
Yeah,
coming
sure,
up.
sure.
So
Yes.
there was a lot of cross promotion. In fact, you had the Florida television in the New York market. So if you were a wrestling fan in the 60s and 70s,
Wow.
Right. You got it.
you could see Florida wrestling.
Right, that-
And everyone
yeah.
vacationed down there and all that.
Sure.
So a lot of common
That's
DNA.
amazing.
Got to keep your wrestling consistent
Indeed.
between.
Yeah, do something.
And the Sheik would come through Boston all the time. And here in our first clip number 1,
All right.
Kevin Sullivan talks about, being an impressionable young kid who had a chip on his shoulder about what real wrestling looked like and how the Sheik kind of expanded his mind as to what wrestling was and could be.
All right. Let's take a look.
Yeah, I think it was that there was a naivety towards wrestling still. It didn't really change until, well, I think the NWO brought kayfabe back, where people were talking around the water cooler. Did you see them last night? Because it was based upon an invasion that made sense.
Right.
I don't think it can ever be done again. It's a different time and a different era.
Just quickly, Evan, on that. So what he's saying, essentially, kayfabe being people believing,
Right.
people actually believed for a minute that the WWF wrestlers were invading WCW.
Right.
And that there was like a takeover happening.
They did, but nobody talked about it at the office.
At the
Nobody talked
we were
about
just
the water
joking
cooler.
about this idea of the water cooler.
no.
Water cooler.
I've
No
only
way.
heard about the water cooler from TV executives.
I know.
Right.
I've never heard from anybody who actually
Right.
has a water cooler.
I've
in
never
their
actually
office.
had a discussion with anybody by a water cooler. For that matter.
Were you watching Bash at the Beach last night?
No, it's like, and especially at the office, like, come on, like that is the most embarrassing thing. I've been in there watching wrestling.
Yeah. It's a figure of speech.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah, I know,
Very
I
much
know,
so.
I
Let's
know.
get back to the Sheik here.
Okay.
But people believed in wrestling. They might not have believed it was like me as a kid. I had wrestled amateur. So I knew you couldn't take a guy down by throw him across the ring by his hair, or pull a grown man down by his tights. But I thought it was all fake or prearranged.
Huh.
Prearranged is correct.
Because some of the spots I saw them do, they used to do this thing where in a tag match, the good guys would get the bad guys down and they would do this rowing thing with their legs. I mean, come on. But I thought
What is
the
that
Sheik-
exactly? What
Come
does he
on,
mean?
bro.
The
Come on,
rowing
what the
thing?
fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck
They
are you
were-
talking about?
Right, exactly. There'd be like a spot. I think what he's talking about is like four guys would get on the mat
Yeah.
sitting down, and the bottom soles of their feet would touch the bottom soles, and they'd form a star,
Oh.
Right.
and they'd
kinda,
all
like,
row like it's a submission
I
hold.
think one that I can think of off the top of my
my.
head. One I can think of off the top of my head, I think, was Survivor Series '93 with the Heavenly Bodies versus the Rock and Roll Express. I think the Rock and Roll Express did that to the Heavenly Bodies, where it's like, you got your two guys and you're like pulling the legs, like it's the
Right.
stupidest
You're using their
thing.
legs like they're rows
Like
and,
yeah, oars, like they're oars on their fucking
Oh.
rowboat. It's one of the dumbest fucking moves.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Sully isn't buying it.
Yeah, no.
No, not at all. Okay.
Because I did row a boat.
The
Up the Charles River,
the regatta.
Oh my God. All right, here we go.
The Sheik was real. The first time I ever saw him wrestle, I thought the building moved. He had a presence. And especially for me, the Sheik, because after a while when you go to wrestling, you have an idea who's going to win the matches before you even get there. I would actually circle the program and say, this guy's going to win, this guy's going to win. And I was right probably 95% of the time. But the first time I saw the Sheik reel, it was either Mario Milano or Sparasarion,
Two
who had
baby
been
faces.
used very well in New York. And I went to the Boston Gardens and the Sheik was wrestling him, and I thought, well, maybe a DQ or something. the Sheik just annihilated him in like 3-4 minutes. I said, wow, that's something different, you know. And that's what Eddie
Graham.
did.
Yeah, he's talking about Eddie Graham, the promoter.
And Booker in Florida.
By the way, only a New Englander can not pronounce their R's where they're meant to be and then say idea.
Yeah.
I got an idea or something's going on.
Insert them.
The Boston Garden, yeah. All right, here we
Gardens. They said gardens.
Gardens.
The Boston Gardens.
go. Yeah.
He would give you something that you never expected.
That's key.
All right.
So he's learning a system where it's like, if you set the expectation that Aspiris Arion or Mauro Milano or whoever the superhero du jour is always going to triumph, is always going, and then all of a sudden the Sheik comes in and blows that guy out of the water in 3 minutes. You know that you don't book that all the time.
Right.
You don't constantly book surprises, but you have that in your back
You
pocket.
throw that in to throw everybody off.
At
For
the
someone
exact
special too, for someone special like the Sheik who means something different. I mean, it's like, we've done many shows from like the 70s and whatnot where you see other wrestlers, you see different matches, like preliminary matches, and it's kind of like, it just doesn't feel right. You wonder, like, why are people watching this shit? But then you get a main eventer, you get a guy who like is different. We've seen Bruno Sammartino a dozen times come in, and it's a different thing altogether.
Right.
Not just is he popular, but the reaction is different. The emotion is different. The energy is different.
And the crowd goes from reacting to the matches like they're kind of, silly diversions and that they don't take it seriously.
They take him seriously.
Yeah. So guys hit the ring and it's like, no, this is something different's happening. The energy shifted.
Yep.
And so Kevin Sullivan is sitting in the Boston Garden and he's learning from the Sheik the art of wrestling psychology and the art of heat, the art of really how to build up animosity towards a bad guy who seems to be a menace, rampaging all of your favorites. And he carries that throughout his career, booking and being a creative mind and force in the business. Now, when he goes down to Florida, where Eddie Graham was king, Dusty Rhodes was the top star throughout the 70s and early 80s. And Dusty is very much Eddie Graham, as the episode talks about, his understudy. Dusty's learning a lot about booking and goes on to book the Mid-Atlantic territory as well as WCW and play a role in NXT as well in that regard from the lessons learned from Eddie Graham. And Kevin Sullivan is not only also learning from Eddie Graham in that way, he's also becoming extremely close with Eddie Graham's son, Mike Graham, who actually follows Kevin Sullivan to WCW and was kind of like an agent at that time. And here, Sullivan talks to Dark Side about a moment where Eddie Graham confides in him that, in fact, he and Mike Graham's mother had been living a double life for some time.
Whoa.
It had been Splitsville, yet they weren't necessarily letting that on publicly. And Eddie isn't sure that he even wants to tell his son Mike, who was a teenager at the time and, pretty prone to outbursts, right? He was definitely a guy that could scrap and throw down. And
for sure.
So he kind of uses, as we're going to see here in clip number 2, he uses Kevin Sullivan as kind of like a proxy for what if I told Mike that, me and his mom weren't necessarily together anymore. Whoa. And here Kevin talks about carrying somewhat of a burden, being Mike Graham's best friend and a confidant for Eddie.
Okay, here we go.
Mike and Eddie had a falling out. Eddie had a girlfriend, and Mike was pissed off about it. And there was real friction there for a while. So one day I was up, or he might have called me up to the office and said, hey, you want to go fishing today? I said, yeah, but I'm in Jacksonville. He said, oh, that's okay. I'll fly you to Jacksonville. Mike's driving. Thought, oh, this is nice. So I go out, and Eddie confided in me. He said, Mike's seeing this as a 21-year-old. I'm 44.
Oh.
And
wait, so Eddie's seeing a 21-year-old?
No. What he's saying, sorry, I'm glad clarified. What he's saying is Mike is responding to this as you would respond if you were a 21-year-old man seeing a girl with somebody else.
Got it.
A married man.
Got it.
But Eddie is a 44-year-old who's been through a long marriage with Mike's mom and is needing something different in his life.
Right.
But he's like trying to see if Kevin, being of the same generation as Mike, kind of agrees with that's actually a valid reason to step out on the mom.
I see. Okay.
He kind of took me like I became his priest He confessed to me a bunch of stuff.
The occult
You know, that-
priest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Him and Lucy weren't getting along. They were
wife.
actually
The wife is Lucy.
Lucy's the wife, Mike Graham's mom. Yeah.
Okay.
Lucy.
leading sort of separate lives. And Lucy knew she would call if she needed him at the other person's house. So I was burdened. There was only about 3 people that knew. Me, Terry Funk, and Jim Barnett.
Wow.
There might have been a few others, but I'm sure there were people that I didn't know knew, but we were the only 3 that I knew of. So I'm carrying this burden around because I'm Mike's best friend.
Oof. Tough position.
So I'm keeping this secret. And, you know, Mike would say to me, I don't know why my dad's like this. Well, I didn't tell Mike until maybe 2 years before Mike passed.
Oh, wow.
He said, no, that makes sense. I wish you had told me. I said, how was I going to tell you? And I think he confided in me because I was Mike's age. So he was trying to read off of me my signals. And somehow thinking I had the answer for his problem, which I didn't. He couldn't come clean because he had held that secret for so long. It wasn't like it just happened.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, to come clean would be to tell everyone I've been lying to you
Yeah,
for
right,
20
right,
years about whether I'm
right.
with her.
Well, I'm sure also, like, for Kevin, you know, Eddie is somewhat of a surrogate father or surrogate, you know, Kevin is a surrogate son in some ways to Kevin. So he's kind of, sort of trying it out on Kevin to see
That's right.
how this is going to go. What's the perspective of someone, you know, from his age generation? Yeah.
Mike's age, yeah. Is
Yeah.
this an acceptable
Yeah,
stage of
gotcha.
life to be reaching? And yeah, it's wild because, you know, as the Dark Side episode makes, you know, so tragically clear, like it was a tough family in that regard.
Yeah.
Like, to deal with burdens. I mean, Eddie Graham killed himself in 1985. Mike Graham killed himself. Mike Graham's son killed himself.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And that's the nature of the episode, is that
Yeah.
vicious
This-
cycle.
Generational tragedy where it's almost like, you know, suicide is kind of this concept that is being passed down in a bizarre sort of way. I mean, there is precedent for that sort of phenomenon, you know, in other families, but it's just this continuing, relentless generational tragedy. I mean, from even Eddie's, I think Eddie's father, my memory on this episode is
really?
hazy, but it was Mike's uncle or his brother. There was
Someone else in the family.
There was somebody else in the family in addition to Eddie, Mike, and Mike's son. You know, so it was like 4 generations of suicide in one family. It's just brutal.
Yeah, and you can see how that's a burden
Right.
for a Kevin Sullivan who,
Totally.
you know, probably was able to detect that this is, you know, a family that that didn't handle bombshells necessarily well, didn't countenance them well.
Right. Right.
So we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the satanic panic that Kevin Sullivan
Yes.
set off with wrestling fans in Florida. He talked a lot about it on the Tales from the Territories episode, but here giving a little bit more color. This is clip number 3. He wanted to know that he never used the word devil or Satan.
Right.
Wow, look at that. All
Even
right,
though
all right.
that's as pro wrestling as it gets. Like,
Right.
they never
Did he-
said Satan.
Did he,
Yeah.
did he-
Yeah.
But did he ever? Did he say it ever?
No, she said he didn't.
No,
never-
he,
all right. I
he
just wanna
didn't.
say
He just kind of like would do these kind of, you know, chanting and
totally.
made up languages. And
You know, not saying it though. It's funny. That actually does go a long way by not actually
Yep.
saying the words that would directly
Link you.
link. Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty
Taking it
clever.
right to the edge. So
Exactly.
there's all the
What
deniability
you got to
that
do
you still
exactly.
can have.
I never said it.
Yeah.
I never said devil. I never said Satan.
And that's the thing about that quiet Kevin Sullivan intellect. Like, he's cerebral about it. Like,
Yeah.
he's a guy you actually can credit with thinking 3
Yeah.
steps deeper
Right.
than the next
Totally.
guy in the business.
Totally.
In a
Totally.
business that everyone claims, you know.
I mean, to go the opposite of Satan in a way. It's like Kevin Sullivan looking like Santa Claus after he retired for 15 years.
Yeah.
from the mall, yeah.
I never said Batamet. Okay.
Let's get acquainted with Kevin Sullivan convincing Florida Championship Wrestling fans that he was a devil worshiper.
The cult-like following, I see, it's always been said. I never used the word devil or Satan ever in my interviews. It was Buddha Deen.
A Buddha Deen.
Comes from, you know,
Buddha
the Hindus' gods.
He loves
Eddie,
Sounds like almost like a gabagoo.
Gabagool.
Abudadeen.
A side of Abu Dhabi with Gabagool.
allowed it because he was drawing money. And it wasn't me drawing the money, it was Dusty. It was the ultimate evil against the American dream. And it was, I didn't come in with my face painted and an X on my head. I came in as a baby face that was misunderstood and split the dressing room.
In the beginning,
So
in the beginning, he was just this honest wrestler, Kevin Sullivan, who feels like he's being wronged and is
Yes.
slowly
It's a slow.
becoming this disturbed
That's
guy
right.
who
That's the
shows
win.
little signs as the weeks go that
That's
he's
the
Right.
fucking win. That
losing
Yeah.
his grip.
It was-
always the win. The slow burn is
The slow burn.
You need to really plant seeds so that people can recall that kind of shit as the weeks go on. It's the only way to make people really care, honestly, is to do a slow burn.
And they would also do that with all the other
I
acolytes.
shouldn't say the only way, but it's,
No.
it's a strong way to do it.
No, totally. And with all the other members of his Army of Darkness, there was also a slow turn with all of them too,
Yep.
where they would slowly, get more corrupted, and then week by week they would amass more, sort of satanic ephemera or whatever,
Yeah.
and it was amazing to watch. So,
You can see how there's some raw material here for the way he booked the NWO.
oh yeah,
Slowly it's
Right.
expanding and more people are buying
Totally.
into the propaganda.
totally.
Yeah.
There's a link for sure. All right, back to Kev.
it's like when I got down to the alphabet of S, they had been following the story for a long time. He wished, I'm sure, that it was a regular heel than what I was portraying. I'm sure, but the money that Dusty was drawing was big money, and I'm sure that he would like to have had it replaced, but he wasn't going to take, at that time, the chance. Oh, and the other thing was, I was in Florida. Okay, I started putting dark liner subtly under my eyes. Each week it got darker. What do you think? The people in Miami didn't know what was going on with me?
So you know,
I mean, 37 cops got busted that worked the wrestling matches. So it was a perfect storm.
sure was.
Well, he means, you should explain what he means by that, like with the cops and everything.
Well, he's saying that, he knows that he's convincing these people who are God-fearing folk
Yes.
that he's definitely the satanic panic was a cultural phenomenon at
Yes.
the time. It wasn't just wrestling that was
No,
trying to,
Right.
no.
people were very easily convinced at the
Yep.
time that there were like pockets of satanic cults all around the country.
Yeah, I mean there was news reports all the time, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, right. Yeah, for sure.
movies,
Yeah, all that.
music, metal. You
can see the smile on his face. You think those people did it? Like he can say, "I never said Satan," but he knows he's making them think
Listen,
that.
that's the
That's the
beauty
art.
of it. That is the art of it.
Yeah.
To get people to go in that direction, exactly where you want them to go, but without actually telling them where to go.
Yep, exactly.
And you get the sense from his commentary that Dusty is the king fish in Florida. And he was. He was the reason people were selling out buildings all around, Tampa, Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, the whole circuit that Florida Championship Wrestling ruled over at the time. So when Dusty leaves in 1983 to go book for Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which later became WCW and Jim Crockett Promotions, starting at Starrcade 83, you remember he was there,
Oh, yeah.
taking the book from Dory Funk Jr. When he leaves Florida, Florida is just left desolate.
Oh yeah.
And Kevin Sullivan, his lead antagonist, is also left to pick up the pieces. So here in clip number 4, Kevin Sullivan talks in detail about what it was like when Dusty up and left Florida. Was made clear in the Eddie Graham episode, but here Sullivan really, I think, brings home how overnight the viability of that territory changed.
Completely, yeah. Because it was also not just Dusty, but like eventually all his crew.
Here you go. He's gonna
Okay.
he's gonna mention that.
Sorry to
No,
spoil
not
it.
at all. No, that's good.
Why did Dusty leave?
He knows what he
I
wants.
think
What's
He,
that?
he knows what he wants to say.
Yeah.
is
He's like,
It's a fucking piece of shit.
great a guy as Dusty was, and as big a drawer as he was, like everybody else, he had an ego. And I think something was said in front of him by somebody in the office that yeah, he draws big money, but sometimes he does these hot shots and then the business falls for a while. I think he wasn't trying to get back at Eddie. He was trying to get back at the people that said that.
Huh.
So just for edification, hot shot meaning like he'll do an angle that'll get people excited coming to the building, but it doesn't sustain from there. Like once they get that payoff, they don't come back. So that's like that's kind of a thing to say. That's a way to get into Booker's head. Like, you have good ideas, but you can't really keep these buildings full in a sustained way over a period of time, which is the mark of a truly great booker.
Yeah, and not something that anybody can just do. It's
right. Anyone come up with a hot shot angle?
No. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so Dusty apparently hears that. And we've heard this about Dusty, like, the Tully Blanchard stuff. Like, if you say something negative about him, and he catches wind of it in a place where he doesn't expect to hear criticism, he will take it out on you. He will find a way to get back at you. And here, leaving Florida, I don't know who it was that made that remark. I could take educated guesses in the office, but that's all it took. It's interesting that Sullivan puts it right to that one person, that one comment.
Wow.
Yeah. So what happens next?
Wow.
He decided he didn't figure Eddie in the equation. He figured Eddie's okay. I'm going to make these guys suffer. So when he left, he took him, Terry Allen,
Magnum TA.
Magnum TA.
Thanks, yeah.
This is Terry Allen, Blackjack Mulligan, Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, Ron Bass,
The whole Wyndham family.
Black Bart, Angela Mosca, Scott McGee. I mean, he left us. Yeah, he left us barren.
And so what happened? Like it was just too far gone at that point. Like Eddie couldn't figure out how to recover it.
Well, at that time, right before Dusty left, I had finished up in Florida. I had 3 years I needed to get out. So I was going to San Antonio and Puerto Rico, and I was working in Hawaii too. I knew my thing was getting stale.
The satanic thing was getting stale.
Yeah.
And then I saw that Dusty was making more shots outside. And without Dusty, I didn't have really an opponent because I had wrestled Blackjack and Barry so much with Dusty. So I needed a rest from there, but it's like pushing a snowball uphill.
And he'd know
Once
about
you
that.
get it to the
Yes, the 78 blizzard, yeah.
top, it rolls down pretty easily. It takes on a life of its own. But getting up to the top of that hill's a bitch.
Yep. So Florida came unraveled as Dusty starts making shots, as he put it, doing wrestling matches and events outside of the Florida territory itself. And
Did you hear him too? He said, as big of a drawer as Dusty was. Drawer.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, adding an R where it doesn't belong, but taking it away where it does belong.
Yeah, right.
Love it.
Snowball.
My whole family.
The snowball isn't going to last very long in Florida anyway. So
That's true too.
Yeah.
So as things turn, Crockett, Mid-Atlantic becomes WCW,
Right.
and Dusty becomes a key executive, and he gets reunited with Kevin Sullivan in WCW.
Yeah.
And they're conspiring again to book heat and get people into the seats, and that's where we move to clips from the interview that Dark Side of the Ring did with Kevin Sullivan for the Bash at the Beach 2000 episode. Suffice to say, it's a long and winding story. Sullivan plays a little bit of a role because when Vince Russo, who had kind of conceived of a lot of what happened at the Bash at the Beach 2000 with Hulk Hogan, was sent home or went home in January 2000, it was Kevin Sullivan who resumed the book and booked WCW for a very short period of time once again in early 2000. And to hear Vince Russo tell it, Sullivan was part of a cabal that was engineering his exit, right?
Yes.
Trying to bad talk him.
Conspiracy at play.
Yeah, right. To push him out so they could regain power. Now, as part of that conversation, none of which made the episode, but he did talk about kind of booking WCW and how he got to that point of being someone that would be turned to in Russo's stead to take the book. He talks about how rule number one when Hulk Hogan came into WCW in 1994 was Hogan had to be catered to.
Yes.
We know this. This is clear. The episode makes that clear. He's got a clause in his contract.
His contract is very cush.
Gives him the ability to say yes or no to any outcome.
Yep.
who wins, who loses.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan's in full control to the
Yeah.
degree no one else had really ever been contractually in the wrestling business. And so, yes, he realizes the Dungeon of Doom we mentioned, these characters from Hogan's past are going to have a role. I cannot book WCW with Hulk Hogan here with that kind of contract without making sure Hogan's favorite squad has spots here. And so he puts them all in the cartoonish Dungeon of Doom stable, which is kind of an outgrowth of the Army of Darkness.
It is. It's more of a Saturday morning cartoon version of that.
It feels like it.
That was just rough. And I think, again, and this is for someone, I'm a lifelong Hogan fan. Yep. I mean, as a wrestler and character, not as a human being.
Yeah.
But to like just see this, it's kind of like, wait, what?
We're gonna go through this.
Wait.
Like we're 7 years old again.
He's in a. What is this cave?
Yeah. All these bad guys.
Not only that. What is? And again, I'm still a young teenager watching this. I'm like, what is Hulk Hogan doing in a cave in his wrestling gear?
Yeah, I know.
Like, he's not wearing street clothes. He's not going in there like he's going into a cave. He's wearing trunks, Hogan shirt, fucking knee pads. Like,
yeah.
Oh, it was rough.
I know. Like,
it was rough, brother.
Even as a kid, I think I was like, "This is beneath me."
Yeah.
Well, because it was so tired already. This Hogan supernatural kid cartoonish stuff. Yeah. The audience was turning on it.
But here's the question though. Actually, think about the same time periods. We're talking like '95 here. What do we prefer? Yeah. What's the greater of the two evils? Is it the Dungeon of Doom cartoon shit, or is it career wrestlers with garbage men and clowns and wrestlers, plumbers and stuff like?
Who got into the ring with their occupations on their sleeve.
What's the lesser of two evils?
Yeah.
What's the better part?
Tough time to be a wrestling fan.
It was.
Well, you had Bret Hart at least, and Shawn, I guess, in WWF to some extent.
You did.
Yeah. Undertaker.
But what you have here in clip number 5 is Sullivan, not running away from the fact that it was kind of cringe, you know. Right. But he explains, as you would if one of your ideas fails, you say afterwards that you knew it was going to fail, but you did it for other reasons.
Yeah, right.
With all due respect to the past master.
I did it with a gun to my head.
Yeah,
totally. Right. But here he is. This is Kevin Sullivan answering for that cringeworthy Hogan Dungeon of Doom stuff.
He looks like he's ready for it, too.
He looks ready to answer.
All right, you want to talk about the Dungeon of Doom?
Where's this going?
Yeah, okay, here we go.
Seems like from the moment he got to WCW, you were working really closely with him.
Yeah, and because I understood what he was going to do, he brought his friends in.
Who were his friends?
Shark, Brutus.
Shock. John Tenta,
Brutus.
Right?
Yeah, John Tenta, Earthquake.
Yep. Avalanche first.
Yeah, that's right. Like that. And then Brutus was Zodiac in the Dungeon.
Well, he was Brother Brudi first. Then he became the Butcher. Then he was the Zodiac Man. Then he was the Man with No Name first. Then the Zodiac Man. Then the Booty Man. Then the Disciple. Then my mom. And then
sounds like, all of which sounds like money to me. I don't see the problem.
Yeah. I definitely can't see Hogan trying to stretch to keep his friend having a job.
Yeah. Okay. Back to Kev.
Not Ming.
Not Ming.
Nasty Boys.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So I kind of lumped them all in one group because I didn't want to spread it and made him feel comfortable with guys that he had worked with and had success in New York with. That's why when he first came over, we had those guys for him to work with.
So that was the Dungeon of Doom?
Right.
So it's basically all the monster heels that Hulk had beaten in New York.
Right.
So those guys must have been thrilled. They all got jobs again.
Oh, of course. Of course.
And did it work?
As I look back on it now, it worked because they were coming anyway.
Right.
It was good to put them in one group. And it also gave Hulk confidence in my thought process for him. There was a lot of chirping about Hulk, you know what I mean, after you've been there for a little while. There was a lot of, jealousy and, and rightfully so. I mean, when I say rightfully so, maybe that's not the right word, but when a guy's making all that money, you're going to have a backlash with guys. So I thought the best way for me to gain his confidence was put all those guys together, not take up too much TV time and feed them his friends, until he got confidence in my thought process.
Feed him his friends.
Feed him his friends and also feed his friends.
Yeah, right.
That was definitely a big deal.
Yeah, but it's also interesting because it's just like, let's just we have to deal with this, right? With all of his friends, let's just keep it contained into one click.
Because if I have to find 12, if I have to find programs for 12 friends, that's the whole show.
But it's also like, I mean, the Nasty Boys weren't part of the Dungeon of Doom? Like, I don't understand.
No, well, he kind of tacked them on. He's trying to remember the guys in the dungeon.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything more here?
Yeah, a little bit more.
If I didn't do that, I don't think I would have been able to turn him heel.
There you go.
Turn him heel.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's true. I mean, you got to think about that. A lot of that heel turn. What made it? I mean, we you and I have talked about it ad nauseum on Laps Fan, but the idea that you have a guy who's been popular for a little bit too long, a guy who people are kind of tired of, or the act has gotten stale, and then not only that, but now he's recreating everything with the same fucking people for the umpteenth time in a new place instead of evolving. That it's like, it's not just a heel turn, it's a whole, you need to have all those elements behind you. It's not like you can just turn him heel and it's a success. You need to have the legacy of Hulk Hogan from 84 up until 95. You need all those years. The fans loving him, then getting tired of him, and then being fuck me
frustrated
for the heel turn to work as it did. It would have worked, but to have it be the fucking explosion that it was, you needed all the real life shit to play out.
They actually did it. Because it's kind of like even with John Cena, it was like the thought for so long was they're never going to do it.
Yes, right. Right.
And so it's kind of like the same thing with the Hogan. It's like you need to almost turn against Hogan for the wrong reasons first.
Right.
And then it's going to kind of create this natural like, oh, shit. And that's probably the thing that, tipped it over for him too is he probably saw Hogan that, or maybe didn't, I don't know, that if he kept going in the way that he was, it was going to do more harm than anything.
Who's that third man, brother?
Yeah.
It got to the point. But no, it's fascinating to think of the Dungeon of Doom cringe fest that was as a necessary precondition for Kevin Sullivan to win Hulk Hogan's trust, to be able to pitch him the real money idea.
That's true.
Which is finally turn on the fans, finally go dark. And turn heel Hogan did. He touches on this, of course, does Kevin Sullivan in the Who Killed WCW series, and he told Dark Side cameras in a lot more detail kind of what it took to get Hulk Hogan to not have cold feet at the last minute at the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view in 1996 in Daytona Beach, Florida, to turn heel. He gets comfortable, does Kevin Sullivan, broaching the idea more and more. And, Boss, you remember the Nitro in 95, I think it was October in Chicago, where Hogan comes out in all black.
Oh, yeah.
Before he ever turned bad.
Yes.
Right.
He basically is wearing the Hollywood Hogan costume before Hollywood was a thing.
Yeah. I mean, well, and then, that was, I mean, it was weird. It was very weird. It was very weird. As a Hogan fan, it's weird to see him not wearing a variation of the red and yellow.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that he's wearing exactly the same thing, but sometimes he'd wear the kind of, they weren't even workout pants. They were basically just long tights, either with the red long tights with, but to see him wearing
all
no
black.
red and yellow, no red and yellow at all, that was uncomfortable.
It's kind of like he was dipping his toes in, maybe, or trying to go for like an American Badass type variation on the Hogan theme.
The FUNB or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah. That was later on.
2000. I know, right? But it's kind of like the
same thing. Yeah.
Badass type thing.
Yeah,
Hogan goes dark.
but it is weird when you go back and see that footage from the year prior and you're just like, whoa. It feels almost like a rip in the simulation, if you will.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's like this moment where you actually saw Hollywood before the heel turn. Everybody remembers.
Right.
And here, Kevin Sullivan in clip number 6 remembers kind of keying off that moment where Hogan showed up in all black for the first time because he didn't get a positive response.
Right.
And he remembers keying off that moment as like that last little nudge of like, let's really open up this dialogue about turning you heel. This is the work of a booker.
It was when I knew I had some leverage, because I brought it up to him a couple of times, but it wasn't a serious conversation. He happened to be dressed all in black. We were in Chicago. And me and Gene Oakland, I got to give him credit how brilliant he was. When Hogan walked down Chicago was a heel town anyway, you know, the Road Warriors and the Crusher and Bruiser back in the day. When Hogan walked out, the whole building booed him.
Wow.
And Gene saved it by saying, there's an ominous feel here tonight. So you didn't know what that actually meant. And then I went to him and I said, it's time. It's time. I mean, we got the NWO strong. They're coming. You got to be the third band. And
Hold on,
tonight,
I don't understand his math there. His timing is very off to me. If it's
October 95.
But he's probably going back now to the present. Of
you don't even know that fucking Diesel and Hall were coming in yet.
I think he's kind of going probably back, I assume, to
Yeah,
the
he's
time
not
during
saying,
the heel.
He's not
during
saying the
turn.
night after, but he's saying that moment was just another thing he could cite.
Yes.
I see.
To say,
okay.
look,
All right,
you
that makes
can't,
sense.
because I think Hogan did that black thing thinking it was going to be like, oh wow, Hogan's a new guy, we love him again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's one of those weird. It's one of those times he did it all through his career. The new Hulk Hogan, where he comes in and
throws punches like
right. It's throwing punches the same way, but he's using a chair now. You know, a little more relentlessly. It's like it's the same fucking guy. Like after you're done being new, you go back to the old.
And so yes, you're right. So after that, Hall comes in May '96. Nash in June. Bash at the Beach is coming up. And add Kevin Sullivan to a list of people who claim to be the first to suggest to Hulk Hogan that he be the third man.
Sure.
Just
actually,
to be clear.
to put this to rest, I was the guy who actually suggested to Hogan. I said it did.
Well, I'm sure it was something that was in the air, you know. I mean, how could it not be?
Of course.
This idea of like, well, what if, you know, the third man? And I'm sure it's just it almost is the most obvious idea at the end of the day, but it's like, is he going to go for it? And obviously, you know, Kevin, who's such a, you know, he has such a creative mind for this business, as you said, seeing ahead, seeing all the angles and the possibilities. He knows the weight that that's going to have if it happens. And so it's like, you got to go out on a limb and say, dude, you got to do this, man.
Yeah, there's no other.
Yeah.
You have no more leverage to say, actually, there's more steam in me being a good guy.
Right.
At this point, you've exhausted those options.
Gone.
And Sullivan's ready to move and really not insist upon it, but strongly suggest it. And that's how you got to approach it, because you got to remember how much is on the line for Hulk Hogan, who thinks that the only reason he sells merchandise, the only reason is because he's such a clean-cut good guy.
Yeah.
And he's going to give up all that income.
Right.
If no one's going to buy a T-shirt of a bad guy, but of course they would. That's exactly what the wrestling fan was ready to start doing in the mid to late 90s.
Totally.
I mean, I think even then, I mean, you always saw heels always were selling their merchandise in the catalogs and stuff like that. You always saw like it was almost kind of weird I'm like, well, I can't believe they're selling their stuff, but all right, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And
Undertaker had a shirt way before he was a babyface.
They made them. I think the thought was we're not going to sell anywhere near as many as we would.
Yeah.
He
Or
was
they're not going to
possible.
make as many different ones. Yeah.
And to the Cena thing, that was the same consideration. I mean, he was the biggest merchandise mover at his prime. No matter how much the crowds were shitting on him and like refusing to let him be cheered, there were still enough kids in those audiences that wanted to buy the armbands and the hats and the T-shirts that it just made sense to keep that money machine rolling.
Yeah.
But now in 2025, it gets to a point where like everybody else is selling plenty of merch. You know, Cody Rhodes is the guy moving all the merchandise with babyface side. I can go heel.
Well,
and
what's kind of interesting though about the Cena thing, to keep it on that topic for a second, is that he goes from being booed by everybody. He goes, you know, and everyone's kind of wanting him to turn heel, and it's sick of it. Then he goes away and he goes part-time, and now everyone fucking loves him.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I think makes it so interesting and makes it unique as someone who does not watch wrestling on a regular basis at all. I mean, I don't even watch it all unless we have to.
Yeah, same.
And like that he was back to being like a mega superstar. Like people loved him.
Yep.
Even though he's corny as ever. They love him. And then they do it. It's like it's really
it works.
It makes it extra shocking.
Totally.
Honestly, I was blown away when we watched it.
Of course,
I was totally blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's talking about this. So Hogan, you know, he's still at the last minute. He can
Water
change his-
cooler. Everyone's talking about the water cooler.
This actually might have been.
I saw some people out there in the hallway by the water cooler. They're talking about John Cena just now.
But to be fair, there probably was a few water cooler chats about John Cena.
What a KPI, water cooler talk.
Or at least now it'd be Stanley talks. They're talking about their Stanleys.
Yeah.
Okay,
They would be.
Stanley. Yeah.
Right, they're flasks.
Right.
Hydro flasks. So here's Sullivan talking about Hogan's at his house in Daytona Beach because he lived close to the venue for Bash at the Beach '96, and he had Hogan's agent there too.
He kind of held everybody captive there,
Right.
for lack of a better term. So there was no outside influence.
He thought if Hogan was out in the wild, people would get to him and change his mind.
Are you
God,
sure,
you kidding me?
brother?
And his agent is worried. I'm sure
Well,
the
I was
paydays
talking
will
to Brutus,
stop.
dude. Brutus was telling me, brother, not to go. I don't know about to turn heel, dude.
Brutus. He's the guy to turn to.
Yeah.
He's led you to water so many times.
No, well, I'm friend of the end, dude. I was the one pumping blood in his veins when he was in the hospital, brother.
So this is how Kevin Sullivan keeps Hogan on the track to do one of the most impactful things we've ever seen.
Yep.
At the Ocean Center in Daytona. I lived in Daytona at the time. I made him stay at my house. He brought his agent.
He made him stay at his house. Why you make me stay at your house, dude? What's going on?
I wonder how we got Hogan to agree
I
with that.
know, right?
Yeah. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even let the agent have a bed in the bedrooms. I made him sleep on the couch.
Oh,
And they were still trying to talk me out of it. I lived a mile from the Ocean Center. I lived on Atlantic Avenue on the beach, and I said, we're going to wait till the show starts, because I knew everybody was going to be hitting them, trying to talk him out of it. So when we pulled up, there wasn't anything I don't think he could have done, because nobody else had been smartened up to who else could have been the third man that I know of. And the rest is history. I mean, you saw the turn, you saw what he did, and you saw the interview afterwards where the ring was full of trash. They were up to their ankles in trash. It got over. It was the time, and it was the time to tear down a hero.
Love it.
You think about it, it's absolutely hilarious that the trash was filled up with ring. The ring was filled up with trash because you've been booing him. You've been booing him for months.
I know.
For a year almost.
Yeah,
You're booing him. You're sick of him. Yet when he turns heel, oh, fuck you.
Yeah. Well,
piece of shit. I mean, I know it's kind of part of the game as well.
Yeah,
it's not like, but to me, when you're throwing trash in the ring, that's a different level.
Yeah.
That's something different. That's not just you're playing the game of like reacting to a guy turning heel or
And
babyface.
it's fun. And,
like that's like you hit me hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you. I'm gonna,
Yep.
So it's kind of ironic and funny to me that.
Well, the difference goes back to what you said about absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
Hogan wasn't on TV
That's true.
every week.
That's true. Good.
This is the
good
first
call.
time they'd
Good
seen
call.
Hogan in months.
That's true. Yeah.
And
Wow.
he disappeared before the NWO was created.
That's true.
Now all of a
That's
sudden
true.
you've got these guys who are representing an existential threat to WCW. Hogan's been gone. I kind of can get into Hogan showing up as the sheriff to kick some ass.
Yeah, and it's also too because the perception of the WWF coming in to
that's true, too.
invade WCW, it's almost like a slap to the face of the WCW fan.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too.
You're,
Good point.
You
Good
know,
point.
like this
Yeah,
is
our
like, oh, you're
antipathy-
insulting me as a
Exactly.
Actually, in a weird way too, the idea that here, we already thought you were a guy coming in.
Exactly.
And you've kind of been
Right.
holding the WCW flag for a little bit while, even though we can't stand you. But
We
you've
already,
been holding that
especially
flag.
down in Florida, where there's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah. That's a good point.
territorial fans.
I never really thought of that. Never
But they were
really
like,
thought of that.
you were the Yankee son of a bitch. We always thought you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And they leaned into that 100%.
Yeah.
Because that was what Sullivan was saying
Hollywood.
earlier.
He's Hollywood.
New York is coming to WCW,
Right.
and they're taking over.
Right.
So it's so much going on psychologically.
New
But
York is coming. I love just
New York.
New York is coming.
New York is coming
And he
to
knows.
WCW,
And he knows as a Red Sox fan how much of a heel it is. To
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But just what a
New
different
York.
time to hit the ring with garbage like that. They were just so mad that Hogan wasn't there to stop the invasion, but in fact accelerate it.
Ah.
And it's time to start printing some money. What do you
good
say?
shit, man.
That's what Sullivan was great at. A scene that leads people to fill the ring with trash. Booking heat. He knew how to get guys to go way further. Kevin Nash with a ball bat, throwing Rey Mysterio into the trailer, doing hyper-violent things.
Totally.
That was like, whoa, these guys are going way beyond the limits of a wrestling bad guy.
Yeah.
And
He knew how to do
also
that.
something to shout out too, just like that we talked about in the Who Killed WCW series, which I think is a very underappreciated element to this too, which I think is the most overlooked thing in wrestling today, which is the production side of things. Wrestling kind of is filmed and looks the same way it has for 35 years, and to me that feels like the most stale thing ever when I watch wrestling today. But with the WCW stuff, they really broke the mold because they had a lot of like TV people coming in that weren't coming in from the wrestling
Eric
business.
Bischoff deserved credit there.
Yeah, and you had also this idea of let's do run and gun style, like verite almost style capturing of all of these moments to make the invasion parts feel more real, unscripted, and like what the hell is going to happen. And that was just masterful with WCW, because now you watch WWE and it's like, okay, it's like all so staged in the back with the lights.
Well, I mean, it's and even that, and then also the idea of the. I mean, I don't know how often. I mean, maybe this has changed since then. I don't know, or since Trips has taken over. But the idea that the invisible camera thing is just pissed me off. 25, 30 years.
Sure.
The fact that like they don't acknowledge the camera is there.
I know.
It's like, come on, like I don't buy. Like, why? Why? Like, you're supposed to be a sporting event.
Because General Hospital doesn't have to show the camera.
That's not a sporting event. That's
where that
treating
comes
it
from.
like a sporting. I know.
But that's what I loved when it was like you'd hear Tony Schiavone or whatever during the the NWO stuff, and he'd be like, "We're going to send a cameraman down there right now to make sure."
Because that's legit. Like that's like what you would really.
That's what you would do
if you were in this situation.
You turn into the news.
And we also talk about the idea when someone comes in to make a save in the middle of a beatdown in the middle of the ring. Why are you playing your music? Why is your music queued up?
I know.
Like you should just be walking down there. There should be. I know you want the pop for everyone.
They got a gun to the head of the sound guy at the board.
But like, who's playing your like? Why is your music set up? Is really the thing. And it's like, just come down. Enough with the theatrics of it all. Like make it. I think people even today would be more excited if it felt real.
Because there's a lot of people out there. Obviously, very fans can be jaded, or they're so far on the other side of the fourth wall that they're only swept up in the decisions that are being made behind the scenes, not what's happening in front of them. But all those little nuances, if you fixed all those nuances and made them logical, you could get people to get swept up into it, the magic of it again. But you don't, because it's not those little tiny details.
Those moments, there's like, oh, I'm kind of an idiot for believing in this. Let me stop being a child.
I think
a child.
You could just take it back. I mean, again, just to make these little details.
I know.
More realistic and go back to a formula. I think they would have.
It's just little things.
Obviously, they're fucking puking up money. They've got so much of it, but like
it doesn't matter. So there's no incentive.
I know it doesn't matter, but it's like it would make it just that much more interesting. I might even watch.
Me too.
Voluntarily.
I might even do that.
Yep. The offer's on the table. So, but the NWO, kind of as wonderful as it was and as revolutionary as it was, it had transformed WCW's fortunes, fizzled out relatively quickly as well. And come 98, 99, the NWO is pretty much over with, and there's a lot of instability at WCW. And the next generation, guys like Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, I'm thinking of the guys who went over to WWF as the Radicals, Chris Jericho, who wasn't quite in that group, but kind of adjacent to it, are kind of casting about, trying to find a place in WCW. Vince Russo takes the book and gives them very strong promotional focus and a push. And, between Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan, as we've already talked about, there was no small amount of animosity and distrust. Chris Benoit simply did not think that if Kevin Sullivan had the book at WCW that he would get a fair shake and that he would be
because of the obvious.
Right, because of the personal situation between the two. Yeah. And they'd had a great feud in 96, beating the shit out of each other.
Oh, man. Great. Yeah.
Through to 97. It was great to put that on camera, but that's over now too. Sullivan's exclusively behind the camera. And we all know that Benoit and company left the WCW just in a brisk departure in early 2000. A lot of people think of that as kind of the death knell for WCW, because so much of what should have been the next generation of talent was gone, leaving that kind of donut hole of experience in the WCW roster. And it's great because during the Bash at the Beach conversation that you guys had with Kevin Sullivan, you asked him about this because Chris Benoit all of a sudden is the guy he's got to put the world title on.
Yeah.
His sworn
awkward.
enemy.
Yeah.
Yes. And he puts the title on him in an apparent attempt to get Benoit to feel like, no, actually, this is a show of good faith. You won't sabotage my career. You'll put the belt on me. You'll do it. But as we know, Benoit gets the belt and leaves WCW the next day, and they're on Raw, and it's a disaster. But fortunately, and I don't know, it's funny to hear Kevin Sullivan kind of talk about this as if it was a happy accident as opposed to by design. When Chris Benoit put the submission on Sid to win the title, Sid's foot was under the rope. They didn't call it on the show, but that was something they were able to point back to invalidate Chris Benoit's win afterwards, now that he's long gone and the world champion just disappeared in the middle of the night.
Oof.
That's kind of funny.
So I encourage you here on Clip 7, as he's asked about this, do look to Kevin Sullivan's face for signs that he knows this is kind of like, this is on his shoulders, and he's kind of like mad. He's kind of like, you didn't think I was going to do right by Chris Benoit. Why would you think that? He's like tempting you to, like, say what's on your mind about it.
Do right by his nose hairs. And then.
So here comes Kevin Sullivan on that decision.
He ain't the only one.
Oh,
no,
listen, it's the curse view. This is what wrestlers do with their cameos. They're always like this. They're always looking down their nose into the. It's like, come on, man.
Eye level.
Yeah, they don't actually just lower your head just a little bit, tilt down a little bit.
Not to critique our crew here, but what I probably would have done is I probably would have raised the camera up a little bit.
Well, that too, but
so it wouldn't. It's not. Yeah,
I don't criticize you guys. I think you guys actually. I always loved the composition of these shots, but I think they always do. Like they're always leaning back, though. They're always leaning back just a little bit too much.
Yeah,
cameos.
All
the cameos. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, kind of like this
thing.
Going.
Like this.
A lot of wrestlers have like the traps going.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're always trying to emphasize.
And sitting in chairs for them is hell.
I'm sure. I'm sure they got. I'm sure they got to slouch and try to straighten out their back.
So here he talks about putting the belt on Benoit and it not really working as one of his last hurrahs as Booker at WCW.
I just put the belt on Benoit that night.
He's pissed.
Look at you pissed. He is fucking pissed.
That's what a Boston person looks like when they're pissed. Just so you know.
Listen. Yeah, they're not going to yell. They're not going to scream. They're going to stare at you like this until either you run away, you admit you're wrong, or they can kick the shit out of you. It's that simple.
I just had him beat Sid Vicious.
You didn't have a choice.
I wouldn't have put all that time and effort into to screw him around. Eddie had been the Cruiserweight champion and the U.S. champion at the same time. I want to elevate Eddie, and I want to elevate him that he could work with heavyweights and cruiserweights. Malenko and Satin, Bob Mole was on the committee with Kevin, wanted to make...
Is he talking about Kevin Nash? What is he talking about?
He's talking about Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko.
Satin.
Okay. Satin.
As in Saturn.
Yeah, Saturn. That's how my grandmother would say, like that kind of satin. Oh, you have you look at that pattern over there.
I don't even notice that it's
look at the dress pattern.
I thought he was talking about like satin.
No, that's him saying Saturn.
Pants.
That's
Perry Satin.
Okay, we're getting there.
Perry Satin over there.
But he also said Kevin. Is he talking about himself in third person?
Kevin.
No, he said something about Kevin. Let's go back. Let's re-rack it.
Yeah.
All right, sorry guys.
No. I'm glad to provide translation for the Boston accent.
Okay, all right. Perry Satin.
Cruiserweight champion and the U.S. champion at the same time.
Talking about Eddie Guerrero.
I want to elevate Eddie, and I want to elevate him that he could work with heavyweights and cruiserweights.
Yep.
Malenko and Satin. Bob Mole was on the committee with Kevin.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about himself. No, he's probably talking about Kevin
Nash on the
That's what I said.
booking committee. Yeah.
But see, the reason I tripped up on that is I don't think Kevin Nash was on the booking committee when Benoit left. I think Kevin Nash was on the booking committee earlier.
Earlier.
99,
right. Goldberg and the whole thing.
Right.
Okay.
But maybe he was, and I just didn't know that.
Sorry, got in the weeds
I
there.
never booked. Fuck it.
Exactly.
All right, here we go.
Wanted to make them the tag team champions because they were figured in. They were great performers. What do you want to lose this kind of talent? I certainly didn't. Or I wouldn't have made him world champion.
So what was the creative plan to get yourself out of that hole?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
The luck would have it
Yes.
that when Sid tapped out, Sid was so long. Sid's a big guy.
Okay.
Long in the tooth. But,
Yeah, right. So he's trying to say nice. So he's trying to say that this wasn't planned.
That's right.
And do we believe that?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is never planned. I mean, this is always planned.
Yeah,
I think it's always planned.
I believe that Sid knew to have his foot under the rope in case they needed.
Oh.
they needed something to go back to if Benoit left.
Okay, the insurance policy.
Because when did his contract expire, Benoit's?
He was free to go the next day.
Right.
I
would have. I mean, absolutely. I mean,
'Cause
you
they
gotta,
had-
if they're going to screw Brett,
you got to
then,
have that in your mind. The idea, every possibility. Yeah, absolutely. His foot was told to be.
As soon as the announcement came through that Sullivan was going to get power again, those guys all went and asked for their release, as did Shane Douglas and Conan, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so they were all pretty secure that they could go whenever they wanted because they were granted the release. But this belt was put on Benoit maybe to give him second thoughts.
Second thoughts. Yeah.
Sullivan will take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mind
Yeah.
games.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
here we go.
His boot was underneath the bottom rope. So we had, of course, an executive decision saying that you can't lose the belt on a technicality like that, blah, blah, blah. That weakened us. You know, nobody bought it.
No.
But there was nothing else we could do that I could have thought of.
Ba, ba, ba.
Yep.
You
So that
strip
was.
her the fucking belt, saying, you know what, Benoit, we don't like you anymore. We'll just strip you the belt.
If people talk about that, like this paranoia about the world champ, like Brett going to WWE.
I know.
Benoit went to WWF as the world champ. You know, it didn't do WCW any favors, but it also wasn't like the key thing talked about that he was their champion.
He didn't win a world title for 4 years. So, like, you know, what does it do to Ben? Didn't make Benoit a world champ. I mean,
they
he made
rewound
evented a couple times, but
Yeah, but they rewound and pretended he never won it, which I guess makes somewhat of a difference. But we know it's an ignominious end to WCW. They would close soon after this would happen, just about a year after Benoit and company's departure.
most ignominious end.
Most ignominious. And Dusty's still there at the very end. But here in 2022, in our final clip here with Kevin Sullivan, clip number 8. Not only does Kevin Sullivan reflect on those days in Florida that so set the tone and pace and psychology of how he would exist in pro wrestling for the rest of his life, he also walks with you guys outside of an arena in Miami, Florida, one of many that he and Dusty played no small part in selling out over the years, and has just some final reflections here on what Florida meant to him and the wrestling business.
Yeah, this is cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
This was it, what's happening, brother. This was it. Dusty was selling out Miami for years. You'd be here, there'd be lines up and down the street where Dusty Rhodes was performing. I was lucky enough to be on some of those cards. This is where it all happened, Miami.
So what happened after Dusty left?
After Dusty left, we could have packed the house and gone home. Dusty was the man. He was the man here forever. If he came back from the dead, he'd still draw a crowd.
So this used to be Graham Country?
This was Graham Country. Eddie owned the whole block. He owned the whole city. Eddie Graham's name was held in reverence here in Miami.
And so what's happened since after Dusty left?
After Dusty left, the wrestling went downhill, and hopefully it will revive again. And we're all looking forward to seeing this place packed again.
For real, like, did you ever get like a heel response in Florida where they were like trying to kill you?
Oh yeah, Miami. I wrestled Tyree Pride, who was the Haitian sensation. All Tyree did was draw money, and when I beat him one time, I had to fight my way out with the cops, get back to the dressing room.
Do you miss the Florida days?
No, I'm above ground, so I'm saying something.
Kevin
That's
Sullivan
tremendous.
passed away from complications of a blood clot in 2024 at the age of 74. And I, for one, am glad you guys got him to open up on Dark Side of the Ring before he left this earth.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We had a great relationship with him, and collaborating with him on 3 different shows.
It's amazing.
Which is wild to think. After
how it started,
and where we got, and but it was great. It was great to get to know him. Very nice guy. Just an incredible mind for the business, and good stuff.
That'll do it this week for us on Unheard. Remember, Dark Side of the Ring Season 6 resumes Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Vice TV with a look at the story of the original Sheik, Ed Farhat. And do join us next week on Unheard, where we get to know a pioneer in female wrestling. It's time to get to know Missy Hyatt on Unheard. Time to kiss and tell, perhaps, next time we're with you. Dark Side of the Ring Unheard. We'll see you then.